Alright, hello and welcome. Today we're going to be looking at protecting stones from electroforming solution. In some cases you're going to run into the fact that acid eats stones. Now this video is not intended for the calcite versus malachite versus quartz and all that. In fact, it's up to you to go investigate which stones need protecting or not. I'm only showing you how to protect stones. And that's it. It's still a lot. So I've done quite a few stones. One thing I found out is a really good stone to practice on is lapis lazuli. It's cheap and he's really sensitive. So if you can protect this stone, you can protect just about all stones. Okay, so in order to protect stones, we need a few products. One, nail polish, clear. Mod Podge, outdoor exterior. Liquid latex. I use molding latex because it comes off the surface rather well and it comes off in one peel. It does have ammonia, so make sure you read the directions on what you should do in case your latex has ammonia in it. Rust-Oleum, clear enamel. Alright, so I broke this down into 4 categories. Category 1, smooth stones. Tumbled stones, opals, anything that is smooth. This is how you approach it. So we have to be wary that the acid is going to go and actually eat the backside just a little bit, and then once it gets through the backside of the crystal, it will go up and under the protection. Again, this is what happens with lapis lazuli. So, to protect those types of stones, anything that is smooth, that needs protecting, 1 coat of nail polish on all sides. One coat of Mod Podge over the nail polish on all sides. Thin this down to the consistency of milk. You'll need it thin because if you don't, it will leave a gap between the copper and the crystal. Then you can attach it to the shaft via super glue and use your gap filler, whatever you're using as a gap filler, and then paint it with conductive paint. In this case, the whole stone is actually encased in protection. When it is done electroforming, you can then take acetone and wipe off the surface, and it'll wipe off both the Mod Podge and the nail polish. Okay, so the second category of stones is rough. We couldn't use nail polish on this because nail polish would get trapped in this pores and it wouldn't come out. Stuff like this. So in order to do these, you would attach the stone to the shaft. Again, use the gap filler of whatever you want to use. Then paint it with conductive paint. Paint the conductive paint a little further than you need it to be. So let's say it's up about right here rather than down here. And then you would use the latex to paint about 1/16 of an inch into the electroforming paint. So in this case it would be right about in here. down. That will leave a space that you will need to clean up afterwards because the electroforming paint will show up. Now, in order to do that, you can use acetone. That's a good way to remove it, even though it will kind of leave a residue. But a wire wheel will work. And if you do tumble, tumble's going to take it right off too. So it does come off. That's the way you handle stuff that has a roughness to it. Because you have to make sure that it doesn't get eaten right here and then goes up underneath the latex. And if you've ever tried calcite, you'll know that's how it works. Calcite, besides lapis, is the second one it's a real big pain to work with. It can be done though. Okay, metallics, or metals, like this. Your copper ore, hematites, peacock ore, bismuth, and pyrites. These already are conductive, so we have to protect these. Now, if it's a smooth stone, again, you can use what? You can use the way of the nail polish and Mod Podge if it's smooth. If it's not smooth, you're going to have to use liquid latex. In this case, this is the worst necklace you could ever possibly imagine trying to make, because it has smooth, it has rough, it has metallics. So if you look here, you see that gap? That's where the copper grew over the top of the liquid latex and left a little tiny gap. Now, as long as it's a real small gap, it doesn't matter. But you don't want your gaps to get too big. Other than that, it turned out really nice. So with your metallics, it's the same as your roughs, but you can use both the rough and the nail polish types of protection. So in this case, this one's really rough, so I would use the liquid latex. If it was a hematite ring, polished, I would use the nail polish and Mod Podge. Okay, you can kind of see the pattern here. Okay, now the last category is, it's kind of rare, but let's say you have something like shell or something that has texture or something paint just doesn't stick to at all. Okay, this little guy is coral bamboo, and man, is he a pain. So basically nothing sticks to him in the traditional sense. So you have to super seal them like 3 or 4 times using crystal clear enamel. I use Rust-Oleum. Then, in order to use this stuff, it has to have a hole, because if it doesn't, the cap will fall right off of it. It's like got this like a wax surface to it. It's crazy. It's a natural wax that occurs on coral bamboo. So in this case, you would seal it with Rust-Oleum, and then you would just run a wire through it. Then you could paint right over the top of it. So you can put electroforming paint right over the top of this stuff. And for those people that flame paint, you can actually use this for flame painting. It's one of the very few protections that keep the flame paint, if you know what that is. Cool, so that's my go-to if all else fails. Rust-Oleum. Alright, so that is protecting your stones. You can use sandpaper works really good, like 80 grit sandpaper. I made this, just a bunch of pins. I took a laser cutter and cut a bunch of holes, and this works really good. But if you don't have one of these, if you use like 80 grit sandpaper, it works just fine. So the thing is, when you go to paint one of these, put it up there, and then you put your nail polish on it. If it drips, it won't stick to this because the surface is just a bunch of pins. So the nail polish will just drip down the pins. So you might want to think about some kind of surface that you could set them on while you paint. Cool. So that's it, really. Now it's up to you to practice. Again, lapis lazuli is a really good practice stone before you go playing with opals. Play with this, either in cab form or just small tumbled. Alright, so I hope you had a good one. May you enjoy protecting your stones.